Miller.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Schreit.
Here.
Burns.
Yes. If you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll start.
Thank you, everyone. I will look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 5, the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all matters listed are considered routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
We'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Andrew?
I had one question. Page 7, there's a line item for about just under $2,000 for BPU for the library. I didn't know, are we typically paying that? Is that just a weird thing with the accounting software?
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
That's another thing.
Interesting.
What line was it?
Page 7.
It's vendor 0296. Yeah, Max has it pulled up too.
So it's at the bottom.
From BPU to the library?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can dig into that and then I'll just email JD and copy everyone.
Cool.
What was the dollar amount?
$1,956.03. Any further discussion? All right, we will go for a roll call vote.
Miller.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Schreit.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on, number 6, we have the public forum. This is time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the board. Time limits may be imposed. I will open the public forum at 4:02 p.m.
Oh, the public forum, perfect.
All right, seeing none, I will close public forum at 4:03 p.m. 8A, we have approval of youth tournament staffing and fee structure.
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2025, with our BBBA, with our youth tournaments, the city charged staff cost for field maintenance and also for caulking. In 2025, we had 5 tournaments across 2 park locations, resulting in a total staff invoice of $3,793.52. From the last park board meeting, it was suggested motion to have a standardized staff cost. So we dug into this, and weekend full-time staff cost is normal with normal rate of $56, and overtime is $69. In 2025, we charge part-time staff cost at normal rate $20, overtime rate $29. You can also see the attached invoice indicating that overtime was about 90% of the time. We had only one applicant in 2025 for seasonal weekend field maintenance position, and they were not available for the BBBA tournament weekends. Other 2 part-time staff were hired for the weekend coverage, so by the time weekends arrived, we only had, then they have reached 40 hours, resulting in most of the costs being in overtime. It is very challenging to find staff willing to work weekends for these tournaments. If we could not include overtime in the budget, we may be losing money. We simply do not have enough staff to cover weekends without incurring overtime. If a part-time employee is unavailable, our only backup would be for a full-time staff member, which would also be a major increase to the cost. So our options are, we could charge for actual cost, such as just as 2025, And another option is we can charge a standardized rate for part-time staff, which will not cover all the cost with a normal rate of $20. Or number three, we could charge a standardized rate of full-time staff coverage to ensure we cover all cost at the overtime rate of $69. Another option, we could meet in the middle of the two rates, and it would be about $45. Again, this would never really guarantee that we are going to be covering all of our costs because we don't know who's going to be working whichever weekend. So as we have discussed this with our staff, the following recommendation best moving forward would be to charge the staff cost and caulking same as 2025. And with that, we can take any questions.
We have any questions for staff?
So I kind of like, I'm totally fine with the idea of charging for staff costs and chalking as we previously had. I think one of my problems with the severe amount of overtime that we're incurring and then passing on to these organizations is that the department itself over the course of the last, decade or two has basically relinquished recreation responsibilities for youth and adult sports to organizations across the city, right? My issue with this is that we are taking some responsibility for field maintenance and then passing it on to these organizations that are hosting these things for us, basically in absence of a structure internally. So I feel like I'd like progress towards having, because 5 tournaments, $3,800 is a significant amount considering that, as presented, 90% of that was overtime. So internally, I don't feel like we have the capabilities right as it sits. And I think I'd like to see the future. Like if we're saying that the YMCA and, Brainerd Community Action, or not Community Action, sorry, the school district, the BBBA, the soccer, all of these different organizations are coming in and utilizing our facilities. And we're saying we want to promote that. We want the public to take a lot of this responsibility and not have to do it in-house because it would cost us too much, right? Or administratively or otherwise, and maybe we wouldn't put on programs the same as them. I feel like this cost, like having so much overtime and that being the sole reason that folks are paying so much money to have these fields maintained is maybe an oversight by us and maybe a disservice to the public. That's just my opinion on that. Because that's the philosophy of the department now, right? Let's have the public take care of the majority of our athletics. So I have no issue continuing, regular staff costs. I guess the experiment of overtime versus, part-time, what we have on staff and things like that. I think the future of it, though, is charging 90% of our overall time as OT is, I don't know, maybe an oversight, I think, and maybe something I'd like remedied in the future, just so that we don't have to charge these organizations. That's just so much. To me, I'm not a runner of an organization, but what is the cost per tournament there? Nearly $800 for a youth tournament, just out of pocket. I don't know what the BBBA pulls in on these particular tournaments, but I can't imagine an $800 cost if we could have even cut that, down 50%. Wouldn't be a huge savings for people in the public. And that goes along with, having to pay additional staff for YMCA striping and other things like that. I have to imagine we're paying OT for those guys to go out and do those things as well. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think I'd like some sort of like field maintenance or tournament staffing type of thing that we anticipate, and we aren't charging these organizations or inflicting that wound on ourselves on a regular basis, right? So that was really the only shocking thing for me. I think the rates, it all kind of makes sense, and I appreciate you guys doing all the legwork to look for that. It's just kind of, like I said, it kind of disappointing that we charge the BBBA so much money in overtime, and I don't know if we necessarily had a plan to try to reduce that cost or just eat it, right? So that was my only comment, is that I probably just like to see a little bit more of a sustainable non-overtime method of covering these costs or like passing these costs on to people, because I feel like that overtime dollar amount is somewhat avoidable if we can, you know, move things around or get you guys the staff or whatever it might need to be, just based on the comments. So.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to take staff's recommendation to charge for staff cost and chalking for youth tournament staffing and fee structure.
I have a motion on the table to maintain last year's 2025 staff cost and chalking. Do I have a second?
I'll second it to have a discussion.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Shipe?
To your point, John, like, we could pay these organizations $20 an hour and save the city money. Say, if you provide a person to maintain these fields between tournaments, we'll pay you $20 an hour. Like, that feels like a more responsible path for us than what I'm learning is we cannot staff this, right? We can't hire people and we have to pay overtime to our current staff because they're busy during the week, which is good. But like, why would we, I don't know. It
Well,
feels like it kind of stinks.
my comment on that would be we can't hire people because there's a lack of marketing for the open positions. So I think that could be alleviated with some forethought and trying to begin that earlier. So I think that it could be reduced from mostly overtime and kind of flip the script on that. Schaefer.
Yeah, I just don't really feel good about this either. Like, I feel like that's why I couldn't second it. I mean, I'm not gonna like, I don't know, I just don't feel good about any of these things because of like what you guys have shared about that overtime is just gonna be what it is, and the organization shouldn't have to be penalized because of that. So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I was going to ask for clarification, John. Are you under the understanding that you'd like to see a shift in our staffing to try and accommodate this, or?
I'm just like maybe some creative direction right on this. I mean, Andrew's idea is fine. There's a lot of solutions, and we have a lot of organizations within the system that are interested in making sure we've got the best system possible, right? And so, what can we do differently? Because based on our philosophy, right? Like, we maintain softball and pickleball and pond hockey, right, internally, but we've just sent the rest of that out. And, you know, a lot of great organizations have come to us, even recently, to do all of these things. But, you know, our staff is going to carry that burden. So as we continue to let our facilities be utilized, this is going to come up more, right? Like, I mean, we're going to have soccer nets out at Memorial Field. They're going to have to do some increased maintenance there, and so what does that look like, right? A creative solution, I guess. Yeah, to your guys' point, you know, we can't hire this part-time weekend person, like they don't materialize, or we can't hire whatever it might be. But a push on that, or finding again partners that even within the organizations, if we're rewriting contracts, if we're, you know, whatever it might be to alleviate some of that burden cost-wise when we push that out. Because as we move on to the other, like the contracts and things like that, the BBVA does not have a sweetheart deal like the YMCA and the school district do to utilize our fields. So the BBVA gets smacked with a 30. So we're paying these other organizations to run these programs for us, and then the BBVA gets slapped with a $3,800 bill to utilize our staff when we give the YMCA and the school district money to run our programs. Like, we give them money. So we're asking other organizations to pay us to do things that we're paying other organizations to do for us, which I don't necessarily think is completely fair. And so we need to establish a baseline, and I think continuing that is fine for now, but I don't feel comfortable with sending an invoice like this next year. to these guys. I mean, I just don't think it's fair. Like when the city gets to decide who they sign a contract with, or maybe we sign a deal with the BBA. We're putting contracts together for all these different organizations. Maybe we do slap something together, but I can't justify coming back to this next year and saying, you pay us $3,800. We're going to give other organizations $15,000 to run our organizations. And that's the philosophy of the Parks and Recreation Department in the last decade or two, is we want other people to do it. We'll pay for it, take care of the community, but other organizations step up and we're charging them money. A significant amount of money, and not just like a regular rate, an overtime rate, which is absurd to me. And I don't feel very comfortable with that in that kind of sphere of like the government shouldn't pick and choose. So we just need to come to that. We kind of talked about this the last meeting where everything's on an equal playing field and everybody has an opportunity to sign these types of agreements with us and utilize our facilities and do good for our community inside of the park system. And so I just want a creative solution to this, because this invoice was very troubling to me, and it's a lot of money to be charging an organization like that, and I don't think it's fair. So
we do have a motion on the table that we need to take some action on, and then I think I have an idea afterwards. So any other discussion on that motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, can I just have one kind of follow-up comment on that? I think I tend to agree with you in that part of the problem is that parks aren't a 9 to 5. They're just not. Parks are not a 9 to 5. They're nights and weekends typically. And at some point, we're going to have to figure out a solution that involves us being available in terms of the city staffing on nights and weekends. We're going to have things happening in our parks. That's when most of the usage is going to happen. And from a youth sports aspect, which is an economic driver for our area, nights and weekends are going to be when you're going to see those activities. So there's going to have to be some kind of shift in understanding. Because I feel the same way, that the overtime thing to me is concerning in that either we aren't able to find enough workers, or we're not scheduling ourselves to be available on those times. And if the usage of the park is shifted, and that's what we have to do then, is shift the way that we work, then we may have to start looking at those things and being creative. So I like hearing the conversation that you guys are having.
I have just one follow-up comment. Obviously, there is a difference between what we're talking about in this particular invoice, because again, these are running full programs, right? The YMCA and the school district are running full programs, and we're talking about this particular invoice being for 5 tournaments, kind of one-off deals, and things like that are still going to happen within our community. But what happens when we have independent leagues or things like that want to utilize our facilities? Shouldn't they be treated the same way? Or in, these particular examples, like, hey, what if the YMCA wanted to put on a tournament? Would we, within their own programs, would we charge them this rate? That's, again, it's a level of fairness I think we'll continue to try to adapt and try to establish a baseline for. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think based on our philosophy, this has got to be just a touch different. And like I said, I don't know the answer immediately, but I think we need to think about it.
All right, so we're getting a little off base on that. So let's take a vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion fails, 3-1. All right, so in follow up to that, my idea is this is going to require further discussion, that we should look at setting a workshop for January and finding the actual root cause and a solution to it at that point. 8B, approval of adult tournament staffing fee and structure. Sounds like it's going to be very similar to the youth tournaments.
Can I slow your roll for just 1 second?
Yes.
So was that direction to staff, or?
Yes.
Okay. If we're going to direct staff, though, let's direct staff. So just to be fair to staff, let's direct staff if we're going to do that.
Do you need that in a motion?
I would make a motion to do that. Then
I
if we're
would
going
like,
to direct
I would entertain a motion to direct staff to set a workshop for January to discuss the youth tournament fees and fee structures in general for that.
Are you thinking the adult tournaments, just to maybe save ourselves some time? Are you thinking the adult tournaments?
Honestly, I would say that we're probably going to end up at the same discussion that we've had for the last 10 minutes on it.
I would move to direct staff to set up a workshop for January to discuss youth and adult tournament fees.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know Carol probably would be interested in doing something like that, but yeah, I will second the motion to, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, so, sorry, I was deep in thought, I was like trying to think about what it would entail, like, I was way ahead of the game on that, yeah, I'll definitely second, that sort of
I have a
workshop.
motion by Andrew and a second by John. Any further discussion on the workshop? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
8B, approval of adult tournament staffing and fee structure. Do we want to discuss this today, or do we want to table this till after the workshop?
Yeah, I'll move to table this until after the workshop.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table 8B till after the workshop. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 8C, approval of YMCA and Community Education 2026 contracts.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Park Board entered into an agreement with the YMCA and the school district to oversee youth programs. The attached revised agreement was updated by the lawyer, the city attorney, and it reviews the city's responsibility and also the third-party agencies, the YMCA and Community Ed. Clarifies compensation terms, strengthens oversight, and the insurance, the identification provisions. Key revisions can be seen on the attached contracts. We have red line and clear versions on there. And again, I just want to reiterate that we have met with both groups, the YMCA and Community Ed. We got their input on just the overall programs itself. We had another follow-up discussion with Community Ed, and the city attorney has reviewed these contracts and has signed off on them. And with that, we can take any questions before, so staff is recommending approval of the proposed agreements with YMCA and Community Ed for the 26 programming.
Any questions for staff? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Kara?
Okay, so on page okay, for both contracts, so page 23, which is like the packet page, and then also 31 for, so when it says, like, spring is highlighted and summary of upcoming seasons, activities and registrations. So do we want to clarify that they should report to us if registrations are down at all and they're concerned that the program could be canceled? It'd be nice to know, like, what they're planning to do. And I know it's kind of in there, but, like, I feel like what happened last year, I feel like it would be helpful if they, like, knew that they had to come to us with a plan of, like, okay, we're gonna maybe have to cancel girls softball. Our plan is this, we're going to contact them at this point or whatever, like, and I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I know that, you know, they will get refunded or whatever, all that, or they won't get paid for the full amount if they do cancel. But I think it might be nice to know, depending on when that spring meeting is, if they have an idea that it might not come to fruition that season.
Right, and I think,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
nope,
I think the best example is in the Community Ed one. And so that is the district, and that is oversight responsibilities, because we do have that in there. That would be on the red line version. So 2 weeks, 2C. Scheduling of teams. A full schedule of field facility usage shall be provided to the city as soon as reasonable, as reasonable possible. Any changes must be communicated at least 2 weeks before use of facility or field. So we want, within 2 weeks, we want a confirmed list of all their activities. So because that was one of the major concerns last year, so we really tried to tighten this up very specifically. And Lisa, thank you for spearheading that. And then we met with the city attorney to dive into these things and So they have to do that.
2H also has a line that it is provide city recreation specialists with program information upon request, so we could reach out prior to get the status update as well.
I just think, just for expectation purposes, when they come to present, they come that evening, just, when we communicate with them, just let them know, like, hey, if we're seeing a shortage, just, we're going to see it on your list, like, that you don't have a lot of registration. And like last year, they did the same thing, like, hey, registration's low. But they didn't kind of mention, I would set expectations, just say, look, if you come in and registration's low, just tell us what your backup plan for this is. And if there's no backup plan, let us know that sort of thing. So we can prep the public. So I think that's kind of to Kara's point, like, hey, it's great. Like, happy to know, like, internally that they're going to communicate these things. And it's going to be, I just think for presentation purposes, when they come in front of us and give us that summary, what we want to know is registration numbers and what they're going to do about it, and so that we are just a little bit more informed as far as those programs are concerned, and where the money's going.
Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 contract with YMCA and the City of Brainerd and the ISD 181 and Brainerd for 2026 programming.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving on to staff reports. Staff, do we have any updates since the packet was distributed?
No, I just want to give an update on the pleasure rinks and the hockey rinks. Most of them are doing really well. The ones at Memorial Field with the concrete are having a hard time because that concrete just sort of melts. So JC and Bain are looking pretty good, and we're looking at opening those next week, probably Monday or Tuesday of that.
Perfect. All right, moving on. Board member reports. Start with Mr. Miller.
Hey, so this is actually agenda related. Since we're moving the fees, we didn't approve the fee structure technically. Are we going to have any issues moving into 2026? Like, I know that there's probably not going to be anybody who requests tournament time, but like, as far as like what our responsibilities for approving that structure are concerned, are we going to have any issues between now and then? Because we're putting the actual approval of the fee structure on hold.
Right. So what we can do, if we do even BBA, we're constantly in contact with them. We can get them scheduled, and we can just say, hey, we haven't nailed this down yet, and this will be pending. I'm pretty strong in January. We can knock something out and get a standardized process. So I think by then we will have something.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure operationally we didn't have any obligations to have those set forth by the end of this year. So moving on to that, yeah, Pleasure Rink looks relatively great. Like I said, I was out there in the initial making of it. So I haven't been over to the park since then, but yeah, it looks great. I'm actually excited to get over there when this, I don't want to pray it gets colder, but so if it cools off, it'll be great. So that's it for me.
Okay. For me, I know that Kara's kind of mentioned it in the past, but I want to thank you for all of your years of service on the park board. So you are always welcome to reapply. That application is right next to you, and I have a pen for you to use if needed. Otherwise, thank you, staff, for a great year, and look forward to more of them. That's all for me.
I also want to thank Kara for all your time and patience as we got our capital planning and master plans. That was a tremendous effort, but I think we're in a much better spot because of it. And thank you for helping me get up to speed when I first joined the park board. And my first meeting was the ski loons, and I was like, what have I done?
And now look at you.
Causing my own problems now. Appreciated all your time on the board, and we'll miss you. I do have a second item. So at Gregory Park, for 3 weeks now, we have plowed the sidewalk around a downed tree branch. I'm just wondering if we could move the tree branch and stop plowing around it. That would be, I think, nice for people using the sidewalk. It's not a big one. I thought about, like, can I just move it? I'm like, where am I going to move it? And I had a crying baby, so that was not a good idea for several reasons. But I don't know, if staff see it, we can, move it, chop it up. I get it, there's a lot of snow, so I'm not saying like it has to leave the park. There's some very big branches that I think are probably very hard to get out right now, but off the sidewalk would be cool. That's all I got.
Kara?
Yeah, so 7 years, you guys, like that's a really long time. A really great time. But like I went back to look and see if I could like find an email maybe from Dave or someone, so then like accepting me on the park board, and it must have been 2018. I found an email though from Tony Saylor, and it was about the ski loons. I was like, oh, I was like, of course.
From the very
It was, like,
beginning.
one of the very first, but yes, it has been, yeah. It was a hard decision to step down, but someone else can step in, but learned a lot, met a lot of people, so thanks for putting up with my quiet, but, hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, honest opinions.
Thank you, Kara.
Yeah, Carrie, you were the last of the old guard. You were the first member that I recruited to the park board, so that's kind of crazy. We've been doing this for too long. We've been doing this for way too long. But yeah, you sadly went through the hardest part of any of the park board stuff in probably the last 4 years. And I really appreciate all the effort that you've put in, so thank you. Yeah, thank you for all of that. And then to staff, if we're still having problems with that rink at Memorial, which is not going anywhere, it is going to continue to be a hockey rink. I'd like to see us figure it out this year. If we got to raise the boards, if it's an issue where the doors aren't working, we got to change the doors, whatever we got to do. The hockey rink ain't going anywhere. And since we've put it in, we've had nothing but problems with that rink. It's time to figure it out. It is winter. It's not going to figure itself out. We're going to have to figure it out ourselves. But to hear that we're still having problems with it, a rink that we spent a lot of money on, it's time to get it figured out.
Brief comment on that. Contact the city of Aiken. Basically, I've heard nothing but the horror stories that they experienced in their pickleball hockey rink, and they have it solved now. So they'd probably love to talk about it.
Yeah, I have all the faith in the world of our staff to be able to figure it out, but I think it's time. It's time to get that figured out. Once again, I've been here for too long to watch a hockey rink that we spent this much money on just continue to not have ice work on it. So whatever it is, let's figure it out. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn. Sorry. Supposed to let you do it, I think.
Oh,
Her last part of a motion. I have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned, 4:33.